So I come from a predominantly white town, Oregon, Washington. We had probably like 600 kids in our school, and I honestly want to say out of all four grades, we probably had less than 10 black people at our school, and probably the proportion of our school that was anything but white was probably less than 15 to 20%. So, and I know that you talk about, having to build that culture of anti-racism and educating these people and stuff. But when they go through, like, in that situation, it's like a pipeline of just uneducated, where they're raised only, communicating with their race. And so they don't get that education at a young age. And so of course, then that's when it's socialized, and then they learn that, they learn the wrong things. And so I don't know, I guess my question is, how can we try and, I don't know, start that at a young age, when in a population like that? Like, how can we turn that to where they're getting more educated, and they can kind of see what's going on?
I'll start that. I think, it is unique because you have to have buy-in somewhere. So maybe when you graduate, Kevin, and you go back to the school system there, it takes something like that. It takes somebody that's had some experience, and, has an in. One of the things that I also say is you can't drive a semi truck over a bamboo bridge. If we don't have a way to get the message across, we have to build a bridge, and it takes time if there's not one there. So every time I see the Narrows Bridge, I always go, man, that's not the biggest bridge, but it's just like, the idea that you start with this gap, and then you have to build a bridge to get across, and it takes little steps. And so it could be conversations that you have with people that you still know in that area, and kind of just testing the waters. But yeah, it's a tough place. If it's a vacuum and there's no input, then there's got to be seeds planted. You got to plant seeds. There might be small seeds, and you may not, like the Bible says, you may be the one to plant it, but someone else might have to water it, and someone else might have to cultivate it. So it's a process, and every little bit is part of it. Just that, even if you're the one that throws down a seed, hey, that's not cool, or saying that to a friend of yours, or sending an article to somebody in that school system. Your friends will grow up and be, inevitably, somebody will grow up and come back and be a teacher there, or stay there, or have never left there, right? That you'll still be friends with. And then, maybe it's sending them an article, maybe it's sending them an informational video. I sometimes with friends, I just I play the game with them and say, yeah, send me your information. I'll look at it. And then, but the deal is, you need to look at something that I send you too, right? And so that way we're having kind of a dialogue, and they're sending me something that it's, might be hard for me to swallow at first, but it gives me an understanding of their perspective. I think a lot of it is based on ignorance, right? Just haven't had any contact with anybody from outside their group, of any, diversity, whether it be race or different, experiences, life experiences. And so somehow we have to kind of start priming that pump, and create little inroads for that to happen. So it's my opinion.
Yeah, I think, you're talking about a school and education, and I think it's the mentors and the teachers, and then what they're hearing at home too. I think there has to be some sort of opportunity for even kids as parents to know, or at least experience, things that hopefully the educators are trying to tell these kids. And so you could easily be told one thing, or do some sort of certification or webinar or whatever, but what these kids are hearing at home is always just going to wash that out. And so I think and even with coaches, right? So there's coaches too out there that need to change their mindset. These kids are having these great relationships, maybe in the classroom or outside the field too. And it could just very well be the opposite. A coach with an old school mentality can say certain things, and boom, that hits right back at them. So again, it's really what the mentors' mindsets are, the educators for one, and then what these kids hear outside of the classroom from their parents, from their coaches, from their whatever. I think there just has to be, like Simone said, the whole education piece everywhere. It's hard to tell a kid something when their parents are going to change that when they get home, and so it's a big ordeal, but it's doable for sure. And people like you, Simone, Angenique, Kevin, you guys are the key right now for sure, and so I'm excited for it.
I have one thing to say to that too, just because I do, once COVID settles down and we're able to really get this club moving and everything, I do want to visit the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools locally here, and have college students talk about their experience and just share. But especially with the younger kids, I think the biggest message that needs to be pushed to them is loving your neighbor as yourself, because that's just across the board for everything and everybody. Like, that's just, if you love yourself, you need to just give that love. And especially like with the mentors and everything, if the teachers live that out, if just the older students live that out because they've had that instilled in them from a young age, it's just gonna be the ripple effect, and it's just gonna water, but it's gonna be slow, and it's gotta start somewhere. But that's the biggest message that I push, especially with my little cousins that I have that are asking questions, and I have white cousins too, so they're asking me questions, and they're young and they're curious, and when I do hear things, I'm like, we gotta just remember, like, if that might make you feel uncomfortable, like, it's just all about love. Like, that's the biggest thing that I try and push for my little ones that I hang around the most. So.
Angenique, do you want to go on this one as well?
Wait, what was it again about?
Kevin?
It's about kind of just finding ways to cultivate that anti-racist behavior and educating in a predominantly, non-diverse community, like some of the ways that we can start doing that.
Okay. I would definitely, we talked about educating, of course. It's just like, maybe, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe just like, I know there's like probably like certain like videos and educational videos, especially on like that like type of stuff. And then maybe if someone's like comfortable of like sharing their experiences and like to like certain people, then that would probably be like the best thing to do. Like just getting like a personal experience if someone feels comfortable with like saying that or expressing that or anything like that. So that's mine.
Okay, and if I could actually answer this question and add my 2 cents as well, Kevin. I've coached basketball, and I coached down in Olympia. I've coached at a predominantly white school. And so for me, one thing that I've really tried to do is, coming back and being on the staff, being, a female and being Black female, just some of the things, like we've all jokes and things that are said throughout, in sports that you kind of just hear and you let it go. I've really tried to make a point of, as a coach, like not letting these things go and letting them know, hey, you can't say that, or you can't do that. It's not funny. A story that I always say is one time somebody came to me and they touched my hair, which people love to do that. Do I really like it? No, but it happens. Somebody came and touched my hair and she goes, oh, wow, it actually feels softer than I thought it would. Everybody come touch it. And so I just, take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, when you're finished petting me, we can go ahead and talk about why that was not okay. And so for her, she instantly, felt embarrassed. But, just that's what's going to have to happen. It's going to be uncomfortable because I would never just go to you, Kevin, and pet your hair and say, wow, Kevin, you have great hair, and for everybody else to come. So you wouldn't do it to me. And so having to, just try to explain things because, to them, again, like Simone said, you're like the zoo animal. So that's how I feel that I can help. And then again, kind of to what Ajanique said, I've continuously had conversations with him, even past, coaching, because I was at that school 4 years ago now. But, with everything that's going on, players have been reaching out to me and, asking me like, what kind of resources are out there for me? What kind of things can I, watch? What should I be doing? How often should I be having conversations, or like, just things like that, just continuing to try to educate and using the resources that are available to help. And people have to be obviously responsive and, have the want to have these uncomfortable conversations, and to look at the things, all the different resources that are going to educate you as far as on what's been going on and how you can actively be anti-racist. Like everybody said, I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is to just try to go back and educate and make people more aware, but then also give them tools and things that they can do for themselves, so how they can be better. If that makes sense.
I don't want to make this go too much longer, but there was something that, especially with what Simone had said regarding this student organization or club or whatever you're putting together. I know you talked about how you're planning on, visiting schools. You've talked a little bit about what your hope of the intention is. I don't know if Mario or Mallory are involved in this too, but what are you hoping happens? Like what's the initiative that you have with this, diversity and student athlete group? It's really intriguing to me. I think it's a really great step forward. So just wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, I definitely, freshman year was kind of hard for me, finding my social clique for sure. And so, my basketball team saw them every day and was with them all the time, but I went back to my dorm room and I was pretty much by myself. I didn't really have anybody outside of that. And so as a student athlete, I know I'm not the only one that experiences that. And so I really want to just create a sense of community amongst all the teams. And then I know it's gonna start small, but I really hope, like, especially after I graduate, I hope it's reaching just regular students that want to feel a sense of connection. And I struggled with in high school, especially during like the 2016 election time. That was really hard for me because I'm more of a Democratic family, and I was surrounded by a lot of Republicans that were really vocal with how they felt, and they joked about deporting not only me but a bunch of Hispanics, and they were really vocal about that. And so I had to deal with a lot of that, and I didn't know how to speak out and use my voice against that. So that's another thing that I really want for this club to be, is just that safe space where you can talk about those things, and then we can really try and resolve those issues. But it starts with us as the students. We have to actually bring them up. We have to talk about what's going on. I know it's really not happening in the athletic department. Well, from my personal experience, it's not. But like Mario was saying, outside of that, it's a completely different world pretty much. And so if we do have this club, we're gonna have our coaches backing us up as athletes, and we're gonna have everyone in the athletic department that wants to be a part of seeing us succeed, because we're pretty much their kids. That's what I feel like. I mean, my coach tells us, my team, all the time. So, and she's really all just about supporting this. And so I know that if we have this group where people can come be together and have another sense of unity outside of their team, they're not going to feel as alone as either a person of color or just somebody who wants to make more connections on campus, And so that's what I really want it to be. But there's also going to be real initiative for change. We're not just talking about it. We're not just sitting and dwelling on what's going on. We're actually taking steps in just changing what needs to be changed, and really educating, and just I have a bunch of ideas, but I know once I get more people together for this club, more creative ideas are going to come. And so it's just I'm really excited for it, and I have a lot of support for it and everything. So I just know, especially once it gets its foundation going, and I'm just really hoping it grows and grows even after I'm done at Central and everything. So yeah. It's just a new sense of community for us student athletes.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I love that. That was
One
great.
thing I want to add to Simone really quick is that kind of some of the things that some of our coaches have started looking at is really identifying how can they diversify their recruiting classes. And so when student athletes like Simone step up and say, I want to broaden my community outside of my program, that really helps those coaches be confident in having one more pillar of support for students who are coming in who may not look like the rest of their team, and who may be the one sole Black person on their team, or one lesbian, or whatever that looks like, where they are an other. I think that that's one of the things that our coaches are really excited about your work, Simone, is that sort of adding to that support structure is really exciting.
I think it's me now. Yeah, I love that idea. I love all of that. It sounds great. That's great that you're doing that, especially. And you said you're a sophomore in college, so even like so early on, you already know you want to change. That's great. I love everything about it. So are there any other last questions at all? Another minute. Well, I say minute, but I meant like 10 seconds. A minute's a long time. Okay. Well, then I would like to thank everybody who attended, who tuned in. And I know there's going to be many people that are going to watch this when I post it, because I've got a lot of people who are interested in it but couldn't make it. And then I'd also like to send, a special thank you to each of the 4 panelists, Mario, Mal, Simone, and Arjani. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about this. Again, as we've said many times, they're uncomfortable conversations. Whether you're comfortable talking about things or not, it still is, thinking about these experiences and bringing a memory still does kind of take a little bit of a toll, always bringing it up and talking about things, because you remember, like, this really is real life. So we really appreciate that. Professor Dolan kind of had this idea and he ran it by me, and I kind of jumped at the opportunity where I was like, I would love to, do this, not just to educate, but most importantly, for the sake of you all, anybody that, the panelists that wanted to actually participate, but to give you an opportunity to kind of share your story and to give you a voice, as, Simone, you're trying to do with your club, but to just give voices to help, educate others. And so I could not say enough how appreciative I am of each of you.